Jack had been strong. Stronger than most, maybe. For days, he'd avoided her. Dodged her eyes in crowded corridors. Shut his door tight against the small gifts that still appeared like whispers of temptation in the night. And each time he saw her, each time those emerald eyes found him across the station, he told himself the same thing: no. No, because he loved his wife. No, because he had children waiting for him on Earth. No, because this wasn't who he was. But that night, the night the knock came, everything changed. Jack sat on his bunk, boots off, uniform half open, exhaustion clawing at his bones. The hum of the station felt louder tonight, pressing in through the walls like a heartbeat that wasn't his. He stared at the message on his terminal, his wife's latest recording. Her smile filled the screen, soft and tired but still full of love. "I know you're working hard out there. Just, come home safe, okay? We're counting the days." The message ended. Jack's throat tightened. He reached for the small photo clipped to the edge of the console, him, his wife, the kids, all grinning under a blue sky that felt like another lifetime. That's who he was. That's what mattered. And then came the sound. A knock. Soft. Barely there. Jack froze. Another knock, gentle, deliberate. He didn't need to ask who it was. He already knew. For a long time, he just sat there, staring at the door like it was some predator waiting to strike. He should ignore it. Let her knock until she gave up and vanished back into whatever world she came from. But instead, he stood. His hand hovered over the door panel, trembling just enough for him to notice. One press. One decision. The door slid open. And there she was. Lyra Venn stood in the doorway, draped in flowing fabric that shimmered like starlight, shifting between hues of deep green and silver. Her hair spilled loose down her back, gleaming under the soft corridor lights. Her eyes met his, bright and unblinking, and in them, no mischief now. No games. Just something raw. Need. Lyra Venn, soft Jack. His name left her lips like a prayer. Jack swallowed hard. You shouldn't be here. Lyra Venn, and yet. I am. He wanted to speak, wanted to tell her to leave, to never come back. But the words tangled in his throat. Because when she stepped forward, when the faint scent of her reached him, sweet, sharp, like flowers that only bloomed under alien moons, his resolve began to crack. Jack told himself this was wrong. That opening the door had already crossed a line. That if he let her in, there'd be no going back. But when she touched his hand, just a brush of warm fingers against his, something inside him gave way. It wasn't love. He knew that. It was something darker, hungrier. Something that had been gnawing at the edges of his soul for months out here in the cold black of space. Loneliness. He let her in. The door slid shut behind them with a sound that felt too final. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Just stood there, staring, like two stars locked in a gravity well, doomed to collide. Jack reached up, meaning to push her away, to say something that might save what little was left of his sense of honor. But when his hands touched her shoulders, they didn't push. They pulled. And when her lips met his, soft and strange and desperate, Jack didn't resist. What happened after wasn't words. Wasn't thought. Just heat and motion and the hollow sound of a man falling deeper than he ever meant to go. When Jack woke, the station lights were dim, cycling into early shift. He lay still for a long time, staring at the ceiling, the hum of the engines filling the silence between heartbeats. Lyra was gone. No trace of her except the faint, alien scent still clinging to the sheets, and to him. Jack sat up slowly, burying his face in his hands. What had he done? He thought of his wife. Her smile, her voice in those messages, telling him to come home safe. He thought of his children, their laughter, the way they'd race to the door when he walked in. And now? Now he was a liar. A traitor. All for what? A moment of weakness. A night that should never have happened. Jack swore under his breath, dragging his hands down his face. He told himself it was over. That this was a mistake, one he'd bury so deep it would never see daylight. He didn't know then how wrong he was. Because a few days later, Lyra came back. And she wasn't alone. She brought news that would shatter what little peace Jack had left. He thought the worst was behind him. But in truth, the real storm was just beginning. The forest was silent, except for the soft hum of alien energy pulsing from Lyra's skin. The stars above shimmered like silent witnesses, and the moon bathed the clearing in silver light. Jack stood there, trembling, not from fear, but from something darker, something he never thought would consume him. He remembered Emily's smile, their children's laughter. He clenched his fists, fighting back the thoughts that clawed at his mind. But Lyra. Lyra stood so close, her eyes glowing with a warmth he had never felt from anyone else. Her voice was soft, breaking the silence. Lyra, why do you fight it, Jack? You feel it too. The pull between us. It's not just desire, it's destiny. Jack's voice cracked. Jack, no, this is wrong. I have a family. I can't. But before he could finish, Lyra stepped closer. Her scent was intoxicating, like wild blossoms mixed with stardust. He felt the weight of months of loneliness, temptation, and curiosity pressing on his soul. And for one fatal moment, he let go. Under the pale moonlight, two worlds collided, not in war, but in passion. It was not love, not truly. It was hunger. It was the fire of lust consuming the remnants of his loyalty. And when it was over, silence returned. Jack sat there, staring at the ground, his chest heaving. Lyra touched his face gently. Lyra. Now you are mine, forever. But Jack couldn't meet her gaze. Deep down, he knew what he had done could never be undone. Days passed. Jack tried to live as if nothing had happened, but guilt gnawed at him like a beast. Emily noticed the distance, the way he couldn't look her in the eyes anymore. And then, the truth came out. Emily stood at the doorway, tears streaming down her cheeks. Emily, how could you? After everything? After all we've built together? Jack fell to his knees. Jack, Emily, I made a mistake. Please, don't take the kids away. Don't leave me. But Emily turned her back. Emily, you already left me, Jack. The day you gave yourself to her, you stopped being mine. And just like that, she was gone. The woman who had stood by him through storms, who had loved him with every piece of her soul, was gone forever. Weeks later, Lyra appeared again, her hands resting on her stomach. Lyra, Jack, you're going to be a father. Our child will be something the galaxy has never seen before. Jack's heart froze. He looked at her, not with love, not with hate, but with the weight of a man crushed by his own choices. He had lost everything for a night of weakness. And now, his destiny was tied to a being not of this earth. And in that moment, Jack realized, some mistakes don't destroy you instantly. They grow inside you, until they consume everything you ever were. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and crimson. The ranch was silent, too silent. No laughter of children, no hum of his wife's voice. Only the low whisper of the wind through the dry grass. He stood in the doorway of his empty home, staring at the note left on the kitchen table. Her handwriting, beautiful, precise, cut deeper than any blade. I loved you. I gave you everything. But I cannot stay with a man who broke every promise. The kids will never forget this. Neither will I. Goodbye. His knees gave way. He sank to the floor, clutching the paper to his chest like it could undo what he had done. His breath came in ragged gasps, but the sobs wouldn't come. His throat was too tight, strangled by the weight of guilt. He thought of her eyes, the trust, the warmth, the way she believed in him even when the world turned cold. And he destroyed it. For what? For a moment of weakness. For a fire that burned hot and left him scorched, hollow. Outside, the alien woman waited. She approached slowly, her luminous skin glowing faintly in the dusk, her strange beauty almost unbearable. She reached out, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for this," she whispered. Her eyes shimmered with tears, tears he had never thought an alien could shed. He turned to her, and for a moment, rage and grief battled inside him. But the truth was simple, this wasn't her fault. It was his. His desire. His choice. His sin. "I ruined everything," he said, voice cracking. "My wife, my kids, my life." The alien woman knelt beside him, laying a hand on his shoulder. "You still have me." He shook his head violently. "No, you're not what I wanted. You were never what I wanted." His voice grew cold. "You were just temptation." The words shattered her. She drew back as if struck, her glowing eyes dimming with anguish. And then, without another word, she turned and walked into the night, her silhouette fading into the stars from which she came. He sat there in silence, staring at the door she left through. The emptiness of the house seeped into his bones, filling every corner of his soul. Somewhere in the distance, his children were sleeping in a strange bed without their father's kiss goodnight. Somewhere, his wife was crying alone, trying to hold herself together for the kids. And here he was, a man who had everything, and threw it all away. He whispered her name, his wife's name, over and over until his voice broke. But the wind was the only thing that answered. And in that hollow, endless silence, he understood the truth he would carry for the rest of his life. Some mistakes cannot be undone.